How's it going, guys? Today we got another video for you. After the completion of Week 8, we're going to do our top 25 for the week of Week 9. We got 25 teams up here, so let's go ahead and get started.
We're going to start with Ohio State, which I think we had them number one last
We've had them number one for a few weeks now.
Yeah. And there was no doubt they should stay number one after what they did to Northwestern. They beat them 52-3. Really destroyed Northwestern.
Yeah, it was kind of a game I was looking forward to watching because you don't normally get to see Ohio State on a Friday night.
Yeah.
But the game just was never close. You know, they
it wasn't much of a
dismantled Northwestern. So, yeah, I mean, nothing showed us that they should move down or that someone else should move up in front of them.
They're one of there's two teams that I think are the most complete, and they're number one and number two, LSU. And there's an argument you could have LSU number one,
yeah.
I think. They beat Mississippi State. I believe it was on the road. I'm pretty sure it was 36-3 or 36-13. But LSU and Ohio State both, I mean, they just seem the most complete with their offense, their defense.
Yeah. Both have Heisman candidates at quarterback.
Yeah. Of course, that's not too surprising. The best players usually give you the best teams. But
right.
Speaking of great players, and one of them that's not going to be around for a week or two, or hopefully for Alabama, not longer than that. We got Alabama. Of course, they beat Tennessee 35-13.
Yeah.
Anyways, and Tua was hurt in that game.
I think he got hurt in the second quarter, and you know, you look at the score and you look at the box, you know, the box stats and everything, and you're like, man, Bama only put up, you know, however many yards, like whatever, 377 yards or whatever. But yeah, Tua got hurt in this game. They hope to have him back after the Arkansas game, but I heard something that he may not be back until even past the LSU game. Yeah. And if that's the case,
that's going to shake the entire college football world up.
You know, if LSU's able to pull off a win in Tuscaloosa, you know, that would be definitely a program-changing type of win.
Rounding out the top four, we got Oklahoma. And most analysts would have these four teams with the exception of Clemson. Some would have Clemson instead of maybe Oklahoma. But we feel Oklahoma deserves to be above Clemson. They've done nothing to say otherwise. Of course, they took care of West Virginia very easily, 52-14.
Yeah.
And
again, their defense continues to put good film, you know, out there that they're ready to compete with some of the bigger programs. You know,
they're very legit, and Jalen Hurts just keeps trucking. I mean, he's still at the top of my Heisman list. They look really good right now. Coming in at 5, of course, is Clemson.
Right.
And maybe they're reading some of the press clippings about how they've slipped a little bit because they looked a lot better beating Louisville this week, 45-10. And their offense looked better. I mean, of course, their defense has been playing pretty good.
I think Trevor Lawrence is still continuing to struggle. He had a couple picks. One that was just a really bad pick, kind of in the red zone in the beginning of the game. And, you know, it's kind of gone on now for a few weeks that Trevor Lawrence has kind of continued to struggle. We'll see if he's
not that it's really mattered.
Yeah, it hasn't really mattered a whole lot in terms
and
of
I don't
the
think
outcome.
it's going to matter, period.
But it could start to matter, though. When you start to play some of these teams, like at the end of the year, that can exploit those types of mistakes,
it could start to matter. The
ACC, they're not going to have any problems in the ACC, but...
Well, that's who they're looking at. Now, when you get to the playoffs, you're right. As far as getting to the playoffs, in my opinion, they have the easiest road.
Oh, yeah.
Which some people would disagree with that. I don't know why they would, because I don't see how in the world they're going to lose any of their games, including the ACC championship.
Outside of maybe South Carolina or something, able to pull off an upset later in the season. Maybe something that, you know.
But it's going to be a stretch either way around it. We got Penn State at 6.
Yep.
And They, of course, beat Michigan 28-21 in a slugfest
Right.
In Happy Valley. And, they just keep producing and doing what they need to do. It seemed like their offense had, slipped a little bit.
I'm a little bit more
in the last 2 or 3 months. 2 or 3 weeks. I'm sorry.
Of the top undefeated teams, I'm a little more shaky on Penn State still. I need to see a little bit more out of them in terms of just their full team. Their defense won them this game because I know they gave up 21 points, but on the very last, with 2 minutes left in the game, Michigan actually had a chance to tie this game up and maybe send it into overtime. But the defense was able to hold on 4th down. The only thing that is a little questionable about Penn State at this time is still their offense. I think they scored 21 points in the first half of this game, but only scored 7 in the second half and kind of allowed, put the ball back in Michigan's hands too many times. So we'll kind of see how that progresses. Of course, they still have some tough games on the slate coming down.
Yeah, they got some really tough.
So all that will kind of, square itself out. Yeah.
7, we got Florida. And I thought they had a really good win at South Carolina. Of course, they won 38-27.
Yeah.
And that wasn't an easy game by any means, being on the road, SEC team. South Carolina is definitely somewhere in the middle in the SEC, but not a walkover. And I thought that was a good win for them. I definitely believe they should be 7.
Yeah, I agree that was a great win. And the reason I say that, not that they shouldn't beat South Carolina or not that they're not better than South Carolina. I just thought this was a tough spot for them. I mean, they had to play against Auburn, and they won that game 2 weeks ago. And then they had to play LSU. Of course, that was an emotional loss. They lost by, I think, 2 touchdowns against a really good LSU team. And to have to kind of come back and rebound here, get refocused, and have to go on the road to Columbus, is it Columbia, South Carolina?
Yeah, Columbia, yeah.
Columbia, South Carolina, to try to eke out a win here. It was a tough spot, and I really thought they dominated that 4th quarter too, which is, where that depth started to show a little bit as well. So that was an impressive win in my eyes.
Speaking of Auburn, we got them at 8.
Yeah.
And of course, they just wrecked Arkansas 51-10. And I tell you, Arkansas, that's another story. But I think they're on just real briefly about Arkansas, they're on a 13-game SEC losing streak or something.
Yeah,
I don't know
I believe that.
I don't know if their program's ever gone through this. At least since I've been alive, I know they haven't. But anyway, that's another story. But Auburn really took care of business. I thought Arkansas would play them a little closer than that, but they just got too many guns. And they've looked so good, their athletes have the entire year, and it just continues.
Yeah.
And, hey, everything's right out in front of them. They just got to keep winning, So.
Yeah, they covered their 19-point spread in this game by a wide margin.
Yeah.
They absolutely handed it to Arkansas. I mean, defense played great, and like Vince said, the skill position players I thought played really good. I thought Bo Nix had a pretty good game as well. Gus Malzahn, this isn't what you'd call an impressive win necessarily in terms of the opponent, but as far as the way that they handled Arkansas was pretty impressive. And Gus Malzahn's really rallied this team to, to some of these more impressive wins. So,
well, speaking of teams that are beating other teams, of course, Auburn has given Oregon their only loss of the season. That was a long time ago, 2 months ago. But one reason we considered having Auburn ahead of Oregon. But Oregon, I tell you, that was an impressive win too in Seattle against Washington, and it was just a shootout, 35-31. They definitely have proved they're the class of the Pac-12.
Right.
Are they going to go through the rest of it undefeated? Probably not. But if they do, I think they got a real good shot of getting in the finals, the Final Four playoff.
I thought this was Oregon's worst game on defense. They gave up, 27 to Auburn in the first game of the season, but
and then they
went on this run.
Yeah, they gave up 25 in the next 5.
Giving up like 5 points a game.
They gave up more against Washington than they did the previous 5.
But they really tightened up at the end of that game on defense. They got out they got behind like 28-14 in this
And
game.
Washington's no slouch on offense either.
No.
I mean, part of it is they played better competition.
And they were able to hold them to just
Yeah.
another field goal, after they were behind 28-14. That gave them the opportunity to come back here and finally pull it out 35-31. So, impressive win for Oregon there, and continuing to keep it rolling. So,
rounding out the top 10, we got Georgia. Of course, they blanked Kentucky 21-0. And, it was a good win for them. I mean, obviously their defense, Kentucky's they're a quality program. They're not like they were last year, but that's still a pretty impressive win. I know they didn't score a lot. That's kind of lately their offense has been a little bit shaky, but they got the job done, so there's not much more you can ask of them. At 11, we got Notre Dame.
And if you kind of catch what,
of course, they were off. Notre Dame was off.
We have these ranked and, how these teams, Florida beat Auburn beat Oregon, and then Georgia we have ranked below Oregon, but Georgia beat Notre Dame. So
we don't think you can do that indefinitely, but we're 2 months into it, so I think you definitely got to.
A lot of these games kind of did happen recently.
If you're splitting hairs on which team's better, well, I mean, if one beat the other, especially 5 games ago, I think you have to consider that. Moving on to Wisconsin, the first big. I shouldn't say the first big upset, but the biggest upset of the year, because I believe that line was about 30.
Yep.
And it was a head scratcher. That's why I'm scratching my head right now. But 24-23, but the 3 turnovers just killed them. And even their defense wasn't good enough to keep that field, such a short field Illinois was playing on.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't get it done. So.
This was the biggest upset in the Big Ten since 1982. And in 1982, it also included Wisconsin.
Is that right?
Yeah, they were a 32-point favorite over Northwestern, and Northwestern beat them in 1982. But this kind of upset doesn't happen all the time. I mean, this was a huge upset.
The ironic thing about Wisconsin's defense and Oregon's defense, last week I was bragging on both of them, how historic.
And
they both failed them. Well, Oregon still won because they actually do have could be the number 1 pick in the draft next year, and they do have a semblance in the offense. But Wisconsin doesn't have enough guns to make up for a lot of mistakes.
I really think that this game you can blame it on the offense for Wisconsin. They had too many mistakes in this game and gave the ball over to Illinois way too many times. And you can blame it on the defense for giving up 1 extra point than they put on the board, but. Yeah,
no, it's definitely the offense.
The offense has been the biggest issue for Wisconsin this far, and that was always kind of my concern with them. And it's unfortunate now because, of course, next week they play Ohio State, which was supposed to be, and it still is.
It still could be a bit. I mean, it's going to be a big game, but not.
It's not going to be as big as it would have been though if Wisconsin would have taken care of business. So.
Exactly.
But it'll still be a fun game to watch, and definitely one that will help shape the top of the Big Ten for this season. So I'm still excited for it.
At 13, we got the second Pac-12 team, Utah. Just really wrecked Arizona State 21-3. I was very impressed with it. That was one of the more impressive wins of the weekend because I thought Arizona State could even win that game, but they really shut down Jaden Daniels. Mm-hmm. And their freshman, and he played his worst game of the year. And hey, their defense is playing good, and Utah's, they still got a shot, and they're playing better now in the last month, and they're looking more legit. They're definitely the second best team in the Pac-12.
I thought there was a key play in this game that kind of turned the tides, and I say turned the tides. It was toward the end of the game, and the score was 14-3 Arizona State. And they were pretty deep.
You mean Utah? Arizona State had the ball.
Yeah,
Utah was
Arizona State had the ball. Utah was up 14-3, and Arizona State was trying to go down there and get some points, to make the game a little bit closer. And just they couldn't block for Jaden Daniels whatsoever, and they fumbled the ball, and Utah was able to recover it. And then next play, they make it 21-3. So, I thought Arizona State fought hard here, but the better team won.
Yeah, they got more experience, and
I just really think Utah's defense is super solid too. So
coming in at 14, we got Baylor, one of the other undefeated teams. And this was the most complete game for them, in my opinion. I think most anybody would agree with that because they've been winning games pretty close, either overtime or last-second field goal.
And they haven't had a very tough schedule either. That's the kind of the reason we've been holding tight on them a little bit.
And they haven't just really opened up a can on somebody, but they did on Oklahoma State. And 45-27 on the road, that's pretty stout.
Yeah.
Their defense is legit.
Yeah.
Especially by Big 12 standards, no doubt. And they get enough offense from their running game. They don't throw the ball just that great, but their quarterback
Charlie Brewer,
is very savvy, and he's great. He can scamper with the football, and their running back, I love it.
Yeah.
Been playing really good, and they controlled. I'm not sure what Hubbard ended up with, but I think they controlled him pretty good.
If you can do that, against this Oklahoma State team, I mean, with the freshman quarterback Drew Sanders, you're going to be able to, really control the game. So they were able to do that, and that was impressive what they did on defense, I thought.
Next, at 15, we got one of the other surprise teams, undefeated. It's basically the Baylor equivalent in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
It's teams that, people are still kind of, what do we have here? But just like Baylor, they're looking more legit every week. And they had, I know they played Rutgers, but they still beat them 42-7. And I've always been, I don't care who you play, but if you're good and you're playing somebody that's not very good, you better beat them bad, and that's what they did. So they definitely belong in the top 15.
I think so too. You start getting to week 9 and you're undefeated. I mean, that's got to mean something.
It does.
And both these teams really haven't had to play anybody that has really tested their wills and their depth and their coaching and everything like that. But if you're 7-0, you're 7-0.
Yeah.
And
I think everybody's pumping the brakes just a little bit.
Well,
because
and the other thing,
some of these 7-0 seasons we've seen in the past, can implode quickly. But you still got to give them credit. And
well, and it seems like these teams are starting to peak now too.
Yeah, exactly.
They're kind of coming into peak.
Yeah, some of these ones
we've seen.
Yeah, some of these other ones that were in front of them are trending downward, and both Baylor and Minnesota are trending upward.
Trending
actually,
upwards.
Pretty fast.
Right.
Next, we got Texas, and of course they barely escaped.
Kansas.
Yeah, they played that in Austin too. That's what was really scary about it. If it was on the road, it'd still be scary, but more scary for Texas fans. But bottom line is this, Texas fans, I mean, if it's a win, and if you're not, right now you need to be worried about winning the Big 12, and the Big 12 doesn't have style points. So you got the W, you got to regroup somehow, maybe get some of their players back that they have hurt, and I don't know when they have a bye.
They have a bye after this next week. Yeah,
because they really need one.
They need a bye.
Maybe more than any team in college football, but. They won, and they just got to get things right with the defense. Ellinger and the offense is playing great.
Yeah, Ellinger is not, he stopped kind of getting some credit after some of these most recent losses. The guy is one of the more clutch quarterbacks in college football right now. I mean, the way
he reminds me a lot of Dak Prescott when he was at Mississippi State.
Or some people say Tim Tebow as well as a potential.
He's a stud runner.
Yeah.
But does have an arm. I would say actually the arm's more like Dak Prescott maybe.
Yeah, maybe so. His running ability is impressive too.
Tebow was just his total athleticism more than even him throwing the ball. But
I really think his leadership reminds me of those guys as well. Yeah. His ability to will a team,
he may have a shot in the NFL just because of that. But he's definitely not the problem. 17, we're staying in the great state of Texas. And SMU, which the SMU fans in Texas have been very excited about because this is the best team they've had in about 37 years. And
without a doubt.
Yeah, speaking of Texas quarterbacks. Buechele has adopted Sonny Dykes' system and apparently believes in it because I think he threw.
Was it 6?
I think he threw 6 touchdowns.
6 touchdowns.
So, and they didn't beat a bunch of slouches. I mean, Temple beat Memphis last week, and Temple's a solid AAC program.
I had SMU on upset alert this week.
Yeah, I know.
With Temple coming to town.
They may go undefeated. I mean, it's going to be. I know it's the toughest group of 5 conference, the AAC.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I mean, probably better than the ACC. But so, no joke. I think it probably is.
There's more. I think there's more ranked teams in the American than there is in the ACC.
Yeah, but that's just the way it is. You can. Anybody can look at the TV and tell who's good and who's not good. Yeah. But SMU is good. They are going to have a hard time going undefeated.
It's hard for anybody
because their conference is tough. But man, hats off to them. 18, another team that is trending up. Iowa State.
Yeah.
They early in the season, everybody was expecting, say they were the 3rd best team in the Big 12. That's what the prognosticators
Which they still
were saying.
might be.
And they still might be. Yeah. But starting off the season was, their offense didn't look good at all. The defense was okay, a little bit shaky at times. They did give a lot of points up to Baylor when they lost in overtime also. Yeah. But now after beating Tech last week in Lubbock on the road, 34-20. I mean, they really just controlled that game, and Purdy really looks good right now. So they're improving. They're along with Baylor and Minnesota, one of those teams that's really improving right now.
Yeah, I think Matt Campbell is just he's one of the coaches that gets the best out of what he has.
I don't think the guy's lost in October yet.
He hasn't.
How long has he been at Iowa State? Is this his 3rd year?
4 years. But
okay, well, since 2016 or maybe the beginning of 17.
He hasn't lost in October.
He hasn't lost in October.
And, in fact, the Iowa State fans call Brock Purdy Brocktober because he's so good in October. So
yeah, I don't know how long that's going to last, but they got a pretty good streak going.
They do.
19.
Impressive.
We got Michigan, and, they're just starting to free fall a little bit, but,
Well, and I wouldn't call it really a free fall. I mean, they're 5-2. They've lost to Penn State and Wisconsin. Those are some good teams.
Yeah.
They looked terrible against Wisconsin. I mean, let's not forget that. But they looked a lot better this week. And I thought they started to kind of play more as a team.
But now they're just playing
their goals aren't quite
They're playing for Harbaugh's job and beating Ohio State.
Yeah, they're playing for pride as well. I mean, the goal at the beginning of the season was to be, obviously to beat Ohio State. That's number one.
Well, I thought they're going to win the national title.
The Big Ten and get into the playoffs.
But anyways, I digress. Okay, 20. We're staying in the Big Ten here. Iowa, another team that's a lot like Michigan. They beat Purdue 26-20. They do it ugly when they do win, and their defense is extremely good. Mm-hmm. Like Michigan's. They're a lot like Michigan. They don't have much on offense, but, they do what they can, and a lot of times it's enough to get it done,
Yeah, and they could be a little higher on this list, just depending on who you ask.
Purdue's not very good.
And it was kind of
it was close.
They kind of had to hold on there, for that win. And so, but I do think Iowa's a great team, and I love their coach, Kirk Ferentz, and their defense, like Vince was saying, has been playing really good. So
we got another group of 5 team, Cincinnati.
Yep.
And
another American team.
Yeah, they just keep winning, and they beat Tulsa 25-13. And Tulsa's a quality program also, but Cincinnati just keeps winning. What are they, 6-1 now?
Yeah, and their only loss is Ohio State, which is our number 1 team in the whole country.
So that's why it's hard not even putting them in the top 20. I'll be honest with you, because a lot of people forget about them, but they're good. Another team that a lot of people are forgetting about is Virginia.
Right.
And we didn't. And they basically just crushed Duke 48-14. And that was very impressive. 48-14 conference game. right now, I guess they're the second best team in the ACC.
I think they are. I was kind of asking myself.
It's Clemson, and they're the big drop, but I think they're the next in line, at least the way it is right now.
Yeah, I agree that they're the second best team. I really like Bryce Perkins, their quarterback, and I think they got a really good secondary. Their defense in general. Duke, I thought, was a good team, actually.
Yeah, I know.
I thought that was an impressive win to hold them to 14 points. And what they put on them, like 48 or something?
48-14.
Yeah, it was...
No, Duke has been playing okay. They have, for a basketball school. But 23, we got App State, baby. We got them on here. I guess we held out as long as we could, but, what in the heck? You beat anybody 52-7. I know it was only University of Louisiana Monroe, but I don't know if they're going to lose. They've looked dominant at times. App State has.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because they're definitely one of the more bigger brands in the group of five, I'd say, just because of the win they had against Michigan a long time ago.
12 years ago.
And, they've kind of always been a better program. Maybe not as good as Boise State.
Well, they got a stout defense.
But right now, they got a good team.
Yeah, they do. Very complete.
Yeah, they're undefeated, and they just keep on winning. So
24, we got Pitt. The third ACC team. They beat Syracuse 27-20. That was on Friday night.
Yeah,
and it was on the road. It was in the Carrier Dome.
Yep.
And they got the coolest uniforms. I'm sorry, Pitt.
They do.
Let
us know what y'all think about Pitt's
the new
uniforms.
ones, not the gold and blue like my shirt, but
the yellow and
the more royal blue.
Yes, it looks really good.
Killer uniforms.
Yeah.
Way to go, Pitt Panthers. But we think they definitely belong in the top 25 because I think they've only lost.
I think they've lost two games. They lost to Virginia, and that was a bad loss.
Yeah.
That was. I think it was.
That's one reason we got them behind Virginia.
And then they lost to Penn State, which is not as much.
And actually, it was a close.
I say Virginia was a bad loss, not because they lost to a bad team, but just the manner that they lost.
Yeah, they got beat.
I think it was like 30-16.
But the Penn State game was close. I think
it was close.
One touchdown, maybe.
Well, Pitt had an opportunity to win that game.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And round out the top 25, we got Memphis, and they're a lot like App State. They just keep going and going and going, and you finally get to the point you're like, okay, after beating Tulane 47-17, like I think they belong in the top 25. They just keep winning. And
I think they've only lost one game, and it was to Temple, and that's part of the reason why I had SMU on upset alert against Temple, because they beat Maryland. They beat.
Yeah, that's right. That was last week's game. The week before when they beat Temple beat Memphis. Yeah. But they bounced back nicely. Tulane's another school, a lot like Tulsa. Kind of in the middle in their respective conference, but good quality teams.
Definitely.
And both of them were quality, great wins. So.
Definitely showing the group of five a lot of love this week.
I think they
group of five teams.
They belong there.
Yeah,
so.
I do too.
Well, guys, tell us what you think. Comment below. Like, subscribe, share. Hit the notification bell because we're going to have a couple more
videos coming out this week,
and we look forward to talking football with you. Talk to you later.
Thanks.